Greetings, my beautiful IP Resilience family and friends. And today we have a very special episode because we have never had a guest with such a background. And in front of me, I have Sean Ferguson, and he's 1989 graduate of the Citadel, former United States Army officer, serving in the first Gulf War. He's a police officer since 2000 that worked in the patrol, tactical, narcotics, and training units. He has 17 years of SWAT experience and has received numerous awards for individual and team performance. And currently, he serves as a police officer in South Carolina. Welcome, 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 Sean. How are you today?
Thank you for having me. Great. Appreciate you taking the time with me to talk.
Absolutely. We have, like I said, we have never had anybody like this on my show, and I'm very privileged to speak to the safety person, right? Someone who keeps us all safety. And with the recent 2 years event, we have, you know, that it's not the news. We have built such a precaution and such a preconception about you guys, like as a negative force, as a negative people, as a negative power somehow behind the scene. And I have numerous of friends who are police officer who are telling me, Ilona, people do not know 90% of what we really do. Tell us all. Educate us all, Sean. What do you do so we can close the gap and start the healing process?
Well, I think most of the people that you talk to that are police officers that say that it's true. One of the things that I think has to do with that is that we as a profession, at least in the United States, don't do a good job of educating people as to what our work really is. You know, having served in both the military and the law enforcement world is way smaller than the military is in the United States because we have an all-volunteer military and so many people, comparatively speaking, go into it. There's only 800,000 active police officers in the United States at one time, and only a certain portion of them are actually out working on the street every single day in uniform and things like that. I'm sure in most westernized nations, it's the same way. And we, stay in our bubbles and we do what we do because we work with the people that we're comfortable working with. And generally, like, people have a bad, preconceived notion about what we are as cops. Cops can kind of do the same thing. We only deal with the people that are in trouble, and we forget that it's a commodity and there's a person behind it. And like anything else you work with, although you may love the work, you might not like the product so much. And I think we need to do a better job as a profession of educating people as to what we really have to do. A lot of people think it's just basically what you see of us, like either sitting around waiting, writing tickets, maybe bothering people that you think don't need to be bothered. And there's way more to it than meets the eye. Crime is clearly in the United States on an uptick, and it's starting to have an impact on the quality of people's lives. And when police officers either don't do their jobs because they're not trained well, or they're not engaged like they should be with their communities, and they only look at themselves as like an occupying force, we have a tendency to distance ourselves from the people that we serve. So I would say that what we do is something that you don't want to do if you're an ordinary American. And I can only speak to my experience. I have several police officer friends, some in Germany, one in England, one in Australia. And we're getting to know more and more of them from across the United States and the world as we speak because of our own podcast. But it's kind of the same. Everybody says they don't really know what we do. And I think it's because, as they say, you sleep peacefully because you don't have to know the things that we have to do. And we have to go do things that are with people like ourselves. Like when I was in the Army, I went to other places and had to learn their culture and understand. There was always a matter of, as an American soldier, I was like, well, I'm an American. They're not. They don't understand me. I don't understand them. There's a kind of a dynamic that I get to kind of leave eventually. I hope I get to leave and they can be safe amongst themselves. But in the police world, you don't get to do that. You have to serve people that you could see at the grocery store and then later find out that this person is maybe beating his wife or harming his children or has a drug addiction and needs help and things. And you have a tendency to, maybe start labeling everyone like that. And we've got to do a better job of all understanding each other. Like, we have to understand the public we serve a little bit better. The public that we serve has to know more of what we do. We are their government, and we have to do a much better job of letting them know what their government is in their lives.
I like what you said about the education, that, government doesn't do a great job to educate the public what you guys really do, what is your role, what's going on behind the scene. Because I like what you also said, that you don't want to know what we do behind the scene. You only see what you see, but what we actually do, how we perform our jobs, public don't want to know and don't want to see that. So unfortunately, I had a chance to see some of you guys in action, and I know the firefighters are the same way too. They do more than just putting the fire to rest. And the same is with you guys. You're doing way more than just writing the tickets or catching the bad guys. You're doing so much more beyond that your responsibilities and duty. Can you give me some examples what you guys done, or maybe in your experiences, so we can better connect with your stories?
Yeah, well, one of the things I would say is that crime doesn't matter how wealthy your community is or how poor your community crime is where a police officer has to go and deal with it. So, case in point, I worked in a town for 20 years that prided itself on its median income, house prices, quality of education. And it still didn't mean that officers like myself had to go to a home where a woman had killed her own children, or a spouse had set his spouse on fire. Money doesn't make you automatically a better person, and those things. And those are the things that every ordinary cop, and no matter what town they are, what you think of that, oh, you're in this town because it's safe and you're not brave. I've heard people say that to me all the time. And you say, like, you don't know what we see, and you don't want to know what your neighbors are capable of. And if you think we're not needed, wait till you see what it's like when we're not here. And some places in America are experiencing that. Like some of the bigger cities where they have this phrase called depolicing, where people said everybody that is a cop is doing the things that Derek Chauvin did when he kneeled on George Floyd's neck. Most police officers in the United States were appalled by that. Were so offended by the lack of compassion of that police officer, the lack of duty to intervene on the other officers' parts. We were all kind of offended by that, but we were all labeled that way. But I mean, that seems to be the American way. One person does something in a group, and everybody is of that. So I would say that behind the scenes, you don't see what we do, even in safe towns, even in towns that have great reputations and want you to know they have great reputations. You go to a training class in an anywhere area, like in and around Chicago, there's 8 million people. I remember one store I went to that someone was cooking something in a microwave in the class, in the back of the class in the break. And an officer got up and left and said, "I can't stand that smell." And we were all like, what is it? And he came back and he told us a story that he had gone to a house one time, and the mother had an addiction problem, and she was called there because the neighbors were complaining of a funny smell, and the woman had cooked her baby in a microwave, and that officer had to open the microwave and find that. And those are the things that people don't understand, that trauma that police officers see every day. And when we're labeled like, hey, we're the worst of the worst, because there are some bad cops, there are bad doctors, there are bad everything, bad lawyers, bad politicians, bad actors everywhere, but not all of us are. And most police officers, everywhere you go, someone has to go and respond to that and see those kind of things, whether it's a firefighter or most likely a police officer. And those are the kind of horrific things that people don't understand that we see. And that is something that, they say 1 in 5 police officers anywhere you go is automatically basically on the charts for suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. 1 in 5 police officers has seen it. Most people will have 1 or 2 traumatic events in their lives, like car crashes or coming across a dead family member or something that's really horrific for you. God forbid, sexual assault or anything along those lines, robbery stuff. Police officers probably, they say, in a career of 20 years could have up to 200 of those events that they witness firsthand. And I can tell you, I've seen dozens of them myself. Anyone, my partners, the guys that are on the show with me, can tell you the same thing, because somebody has to go there and stand in the middle of that and try to make sense of all of it and be only an arm's distance away from the very person that might have done it.
What you're just describing is just mind-blowing, Sean, to be honest with you. And I like that the word that you have used, it's a label. Yes, people label people because of the one person that did something. And I like that you said, just because one person did something wrong, like doctors make a mistakes, lawyers make a mistakes, everyone makes a mistake. It doesn't mean that we have to be labeled by that. There are the people and cops that are doing their jobs. But I wish people will understand what stress you guys are going under, what sometimes depression that follows after that as well. So what message would you want to tell right now to the public, so to close this gap, to remove the labeling and start the healing process between the public and police officers?
I'd say like just you don't like it when someone judges you by your, people that are just like you making a mistake. Don't do the same thing to police officers. Most police officers would never do the things that we've all been accused of and had to deal with. And you don't like it as an individual to be labeled within a group, particularly if it's a negative connotation, nor do police officers. When we had the rioting from George Floyd, a lot of people that came out to protest about what happened with George Floyd were right to do so. And most police officers agreed with that. I remember standing in riot gear talking to people saying, I'm with you. I agree with you. And then other people came and decided that it was a good time to burn down cities and loot and ruin the neighborhoods of these people that very much needed the police to stay there, but had some concerns about the way that the police were maybe treating them. And then it all just turned negative. And we said, the society said, well, look at all these looters and rioters. And then the peaceful protesters were lumped in with them. The same kind of things happen to cops. Not all of us are willing to do those horrible things. All the videos, the interactions that cops have with people, very, very few, like less than 0.1% of those interactions on a daily basis are something that people could be negative about. We have so much contact with the public that's positive, but the one thing that's sensationalized, people are brokering in division in our world right now. Well, no matter where you go, Europe, we talk to our police friends from over there. We talk to our police friends from all over the world, and they say, yes, everyone's turning on us. And one man's action has caused all police to suffer. That man has been punished since, but still, like, we're fighting an uphill battle. It hurt our recruiting numbers. It hurt our ability to safely police you. It increased burnout and suicide rates amongst police officers. So the very things that you were complaining about are now only going to be magnified because there's even fewer people to do the work. And as people get burned out and upset, they leave the job and they leave it to people that don't know what they're doing. And that's probably what I would say is, remember, be careful what you wish for, because you may just get it. And I think in America, a lot of places we're seeing police officers people don't want to come on the job to be police officers, and police officers don't want to get mired in controversy, because the last thing you can tell a person that wants to do well is that they're this awful monster of a human being, because they're trying to. They just stop and, try to find something better, or don't do anything at all.
Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, that happened, and also I became like an eyewitness of what had happened like 2 years ago. How the places have been burned in Minneapolis. My work was like less than a mile away from everything that was going on. So the ashes from the burn literally came and was like on the ground the next day. So we all smelled that, we all seen that. So it wasn't pleasant event at all. And we prayed to God that it would stop. It would stop the misunderstanding, and people would meet with each other and start a dialogue about that.
Right.
Hey, there's another way to express the anger, frustration. Maybe we need education about, what police really do. And instead of like punishing and just burning everything down, we can just come up with a dialogue, because we want a healing. And just because one person did something wrong doesn't mean that everyone has to suffer. We heard them. We understand that. But, like innocent people didn't have to suffer from the being burned from their businesses that have built, entire life, their savings, their life, everything is on it, that God burned in one day. So thank you so much, Sean, for your time, for your effort, for your boldness, for your courage to came to educate us all about what police people are. So I'm all with you. I'm always say that, with you guys, we feel safe, and I wish you all the best. I know there's a lot of people right now in condolences with you. And also we want to bring the healing around the nations as well. Healing that starts also in Minneapolis, that also will have a triple effect around the world as well, because we want to live together in harmony with you guys. You put your life, your time, your resources to protect us all. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, from the people who think and act like me, and people who don't even know, who still need a healing, who still want to change their mind because you've been labeled as a bad guys. I want them to also give you guys another chance and see, hey, maybe we need to get this dialogue. Maybe we need to start educating ourselves. So God bless you, Sean. And on behalf of America, God bless you.